Arma Reforger is having a bit of a weird time right now. I kept seeing all of these videos on my timeline saying, Arma Reforger is blowing up, Arma Reforger is exploding. I've got no idea why, but everyone seemed to be using the same language to talk about it, saying it was the big new thing. It was 2025's first big game. But of course, it's not a new game. It actually came out in November 2023. It's 2025 now, so it came out quite a long while ago. And it hasn't really blown up in popularity. If you just look at the graph on Steam charts, it does look pretty promising. The line goes up very sharply. But then you add the numbers to it and realise that's because it's gone from like 3,000 players to 15,000 players. It's really good that it's like quintupled its player count over the last few weeks, but it's not like it's going to be troubling the top 10 anytime soon. If you look at the Twitch stats, it's really interesting. There's not really been that many more viewers for the game. There's currently, while I'm making this video, 1,500 people watching the game. There has been a massive increase in the number of channels streaming the game, so it's gone from having around 25 to 30 channels up to 145 people streaming the game, so a lot more streamers are definitely picking it up, a lot more YouTubers are making videos about it, but there doesn't seem to be that many more players. Well, of course, that's only on Steam. The game has just come out on PlayStation 5, so now that's going to add a bunch of new players into it. But I still think it's a pretty niche game, so what's got everybody so excited? So after watching Jack Frag's videos on it, where he seemed to be having a great time, his thumbnails were saying like, it's a fantastic game, he's really excited about it, and I tend to trust Jack Frag's videos. We've got pretty similar tasting games. I know he's not one for like clickbait and stuff like that, so I was like, yep, okay, I'll give it a go. So me and a couple of my friends decided to pick it up, give it a go, and this is what our first night in the game looked like.
I'm trying to move about, because I still need to get...
Whoa!
What is that?
I'm assuming that's one of the helicopters?
Yeah.
These are medical tents, I think. That helicopter really messed me up. Oh, I'm dead! I got shot in the base. Or people just died here. Yeah, it's on the left, basically. Are we following this guy?
He's got both doors open. Oh! Oh no, this is not good. Oh!
I am...
Oh god, maybe it's dead. I'm still on the gun. I'm surprisingly okay. No, Namegear's not dead.
How do we...
Moderate injury, but he's improving. Is he okay? Oh, you're carrying him away.
Where's today?
I don't look okay.
What? Is there someone shooting us?
No, I'm just trying to tip the truck over.
I'm still inside.
We'll bring supplies to Arkansas. Roger. Good shit.
Okay, I'm going around the back of this building, see if I can get close to him. Can I climb this ladder? Oh yeah, I can.
He's dead. Got him.
He's definitely dead.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, let's go get a gun arrow.
Oh, friendly fire.
What?
Friendly killed. Okay. I didn't realise there was one over there.
So you just spent this whole time shooting a friendly? Arrow, I just killed a enemy player here.
Everybody at the
Right,
Arkansas,
I've
check them out before you shoot.
got the supply stuff.
Multiple friends.
So it said that you just killed multiple friendlies.
Yeah.
Well, where did it say the server's going down? Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Where did it say that? Oh.
Alright, I'm trying to follow you.
Oh god, my game might have just crashed. Yeah, this feels like...
Quite close and quite far away, so I'm sorry if I hit you.
What did you just say?
You keep appearing really close then really far away.
Oh god. This is horrible. This is really horrible. Oh, slow down, slow down. There's stuff in the road, there's stuff in the road, there's stuff in the road. On the radio and tell the squad that Wisconsin has supplies.
Oh.
Okay, I think we just got shot with a rocket. So you could say we didn't have the most successful first evening on the game. But then, the very next day, today, I started playing it and decided that I was going to stream it for a little bit, do my normal kind of 2 or 3 hour stream in the morning, and I played it for 8 hours straight. That's one of the longest streams I've ever done. This game is just weirdly addictive. So what is it that makes Arma Reforger so good, especially to make content for, even if it's maybe not the best game to play? Well, first of all, let's talk about what the game is, for anyone who hasn't really been following it. The Arma series has been around for quite a long while. I used to play a lot of Arma 2. It's like a milsim series made by Bohemia Interactive. There are campaigns and things, but a lot of people use it as kind of a sandbox where they can play their own game types. Bohemia have always been super supportive of mods and being able to set up your own server with your own rules, your own game types and things like that. It's actually where DayZ got its start. It was a mod for Arma 2 and it was awesome. They released Arma 3 and it did alright. Lots of people like that kind of RPG type thing, like what people play in GTA 5 where everyone has their own jobs and things like that. But then before they released Arma 4, which is supposedly going to come out in like 2027, they decided, since they were making a new engine, that they were going to release a kind of test version of the game where people could start making content while they were also testing new features of the engine, while also being able to pay them money for the game and play it. So that's how we got Arma Reforger. It's basically a playable kind of test demo for the new Arma engine, and it works really, really well. Well, it's actually pretty janky, but I'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. So the game type that we've been playing is called Conflict, I think. I've still not actually learned that much about this game, despite spending a surprisingly long time in it over the last 24 hours. But basically 2 teams of players spawn. I think there's 64 players on each team. Different servers can have different player counts, and they need to try and capture different bases across the map, a bit like what you do in Battlefield. The big difference here is that you have supplies spawning at your main base, and you can use that for respawns, to get weapons, to get vehicles, you can even build new buildings. So the idea is that you, as you take more objectives, you start building up those objectives as bases too. You might start putting some things there so people can communicate better, like a radio tower, because there's a full radio system in this game with different frequencies and stuff. You might decide you want some supply tents or little tins, whatever they are, where people can change their weapons and stuff like that. So if people respawn, they can get new things. You might want a medical tent so people can get healed. You might want vehicle bays. And then to get the supplies, which you need to build all of that stuff and to get people to respawn these bases, to those bases, you actually need people flying helicopters or driving lorries, driving trucks for my American viewers, across the map from the base to get to all of these new bases to keep moving the supplies along. So supply lines become super important. And a really, really clever thing about this game is that there is kind of persistent progress. Like, you might be playing on a server for a while, then log off for the night, then come back the next morning, and you'll still have your same character. The same fight will still be ongoing. But once that game is over, and they can last days before they end, but once a game is over, then everything gets reset. So at the very beginning, it's not like people can just go get helicopters to go spread out across the map. Instead, they have a kind of rank system where you have to do stuff like capturing bases, killing enemies, transporting supplies, in order to be able to rank up to access the more powerful stuff. So at the very beginning of the game, everyone's got basic trucks, fairly basic weapons, and they're sort of spreading out over the map, getting jobs done because it's in their best interest, it helps them to rank up, to try and get more influence across the map. And then obviously at some point the 2 sides come into conflict and start fighting. Now for you as a player, it means you've got a lot of different things you can do. You can go in just as a soldier if you want. You can be like a frontline soldier, and then you need to try and find a way to get to those front lines. So maybe you'll find someone who's really good at flying helicopters and they'll offer to fly you out there. Or maybe you'll just go get a jeep yourself and drive yourself to the front lines. Or you can just walk, even if it takes a very, very long time. And then you can go fight and try and capture objectives and defend and stuff like that. Or you might decide you want to be a pilot and be ferrying troops forwards and backwards to the front lines or between different objectives as a helicopter pilot. And then you've got to, learn how the helicopters work and deal with all of the dangers that are involved in helicopter flying. Or you might be a supply driver and just want to drive supplies from the base to the forward operating bases, where again there's an element of risk because the places where supplies are most needed are often in battlefields, so then it becomes quite difficult to get the supplies there. So you've got to kind of decide where it's worth taking the supplies to, how far forwards you dare to go. And often along the way you'll pick up hitchhikers and stuff, people who want a little bit of a lift. You can also get people who are medics, you get people who just try to organise other people, so try to run the squads. There's tons of different things that you can do in this, and they all seem kind of emergent. Now in terms of how it actually feels to play, it's a bit weird. I would say for this type of game that's a bit of a tech demo, it's testing a new engine, stuff like that, it does feel really polished. Like the shooting feels great, just like it kind of always has in Arma. So you can go out there, you can explore the world, you can get into gunfights, and things tend to work as you expect them to. There's a few twists if you've come from less realistic games like Battlefield or Call of Duty, so like a lot of damage isn't necessarily instant, instead you'll start bleeding, and then it's up to whether kind of you can control that bleeding before you end up passing out as to whether you die or not. So often you'll shoot someone and they won't immediately go down because, you know, they still haven't lost that much blood yet, so they can fight back. That kind of adds something to the way that you're fighting. You also have guns that aren't super accurate at long distances, they're more like real guns, so generally you won't want to have them on full auto and things like that. I absolutely love that. I wish they would do that in all games. And then you have things like, you know, how much you're carrying will weigh you down. If you've decided to take a rocket launcher and you've got a bunch of rockets in your backpack, you are going to be very, very slow. So that's going to be a problem if you're trying to like cross a field really quickly. So all of that kind of stuff works really well. It's not a survival game, you don't need to eat or anything like that or get water or anything. You only really need to worry about making sure you've got ammo and that you've got enough meds to keep you going, and that's just like bandages and tourniquets and things like that. But yeah, I'd say the simulation stuff works really well. Where the jankiness starts to appear is more in all of the more gamey aspects of it. So a lot of animations are kind of broken, like when you're trying to climb into the passenger seat of a helicopter, you'll climb through the rotor blades and things like that. Sometimes the physics are a little bit janky, like you're trying to roll over trucks and sometimes they'll go flying or sometimes they'll barely move at all. There's a few weird things, like sometimes grenades will do damage through walls and ceilings and things like that. And you kind of have to just learn to ignore the fact that vehicles would appear out of nowhere when people are spending supply to construct them, and things kind of teleport around a little bit just to make the game work, to make the game a little bit easier. There's a lot of kind of people locking vehicles and not locking them, people accidentally spawning helicopters on top of other people's helicopters that they've just spawned. If you've ever played one of these Arma games before, you'll be entirely used to the stuff that I'm talking about. Just all of that stuff that doesn't fit in with your idea of a milsim because, you know, you want it to be realistic, but you ignore because you kind of know it's a part of allowing the milsim to exist. But finally, now let's start talking about why this game is doing so well right now. I mean, it's been no secret that lots of people like me who are Call of Duty creators have kind of got a little bit disenchanted with Call of Duty lately. I haven't played the game for quite a long while now. It's not in a brilliant state, and I think it's got kind of stale. It's been using the same formula for a long while. It's not particularly fun. And I can't speak for everyone, but for me at least, a big part of that is how the Call of Duty pace is kind of relentless. Like when you've been playing multiplayer, it's always been the same in Call of Duty. Since I would say Call of Duty 2, I think the first Call of Duty was a bit slower. But Call of Duty 2 and from then on, it's always been kind of you spawn, you rush towards the enemy, you get some kills, you complete an objective, you die, you spawn, you rush towards the enemy, and you just kind of keep on doing that over and over again. If you're having a good game, then you'll kill lots of enemies, and if you're having a bad game, you'll be respawning a lot more, but it doesn't feel like there's ever much downtime. Increasingly, Warzone feels like it's kind of followed that route, that Warzone has followed that you're going to spawn, you're going to run into enemies as quickly as humanly possible, you're going to get your loadout immediately, you're going to have bounties on you, you're going to have redeploy balloons so you can move around the map, and you're just going to be constantly fighting, and the game's going to be over before you know it. And again, it doesn't feel like there's that much downtime. It feels like the game is desperate to try and throw you up against enough enemies, as if it's absolutely terrified that you're going to get bored of it. And maybe it's because I'm getting a little bit old now, but that boredom, I think, is one of the big things that's missing from Warzone, and one of the things that makes Arma Reforger so great. This game can be boring. It's not afraid to be boring, and I think all of the best games are willing to let you get bored at some time or another. While I was playing GTA last week, Ennie Austin released this video about the most boring places in GTA 5, and it really got me thinking about this, that he was arguing that being boring in a game is kind of a brave choice. Being boring in a game is actually kind of interesting in itself, because it's kind of a bit of downtime within a game. It's something that might make you reflect a little bit, and I think it goes even further than that when you get into multiplayer games. I've always enjoyed those single player games like Red Dead Redemption 2, where sometimes you'll just have a long horse ride. Actually, remember Red Dead Redemption 1, the first time you cross over into Mexico, and I think there's some Jose Gonzalez playing, you're riding your horse across the border, it's very lonely, there's no shootouts happening, there's no chases happening. Like, imagine it would be absolute mayhem if it was a Call of Duty game. But in Red Dead Redemption, they allow everything to just get quiet for a little while. There's a bit of music, you're alone in the countryside, and it gives you a little bit of time to just think about everything that's happened. In multiplayer games, think about things like Sea of Thieves, where you'll be often just sailing in the ocean, and I think that's some of my favourite memories of Sea of Thieves have been from just sailing from place to place. And because it's boring, because there's not much to do, you start making your own fun with your teammates. You start playing musical instruments, you start chatting to them, asking them how their day was. It's become a little bit of a cliche at this point, with men, I know, especially, where like, my wife will ask me, oh, how are your friends? Like, how are the people, you know, she knows too that I play games with sometimes. And even if I've been playing games with them for like 7 hours, I'll just be like, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on in their lives. I didn't even think to ask them. And it's because, you know, you get so wrapped up in games. When you're playing Warzone, it's all go, 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 go. You don't have any time. But you play something like Sea of Thieves, or Star Citizen, or Ark, or Rust, and you suddenly have a lot of downtime where there's nothing really happening. You're just going somewhere, or you're doing something mindless like mining something, and you get a chance to reflect on what's going on, to look at the scenery, to chat to each other, to just kind of mess around a bit. And I think that's where some of the best moments come from in gaming, whether it's multiplayer or single player. And Arma Reforger has so much time like this. There's so much time over the 8 hours I was streaming today where I was just on a helicopter ride with people flying across the landscape, or I was guarding somewhere, sitting on top of the power plant, just looking around at the forest, just looking at all of the different things that people were doing, fights going off in a distance, and I had time to think about the game. Sometimes I was just trekking across a field because I'd messed up something and I had a very, very long way to walk. Or sometimes we were just building up a base and putting loads of sandbags down. There's so many opportunities for you just to slow down and kind of appreciate that the scenery looks really good. I think this engine looks really, really good. And it helps that it has kind of a 24-hour day-night cycle, and it has weather and stuff like that. So the scenery's constantly changing around you, and that's really cool. But also just sometimes it almost forces you to be doing nothing. It gives you lots of time where there's very, very little for you to do. So your mind starts wandering. And I think that's a really, really awesome thing. Something that I noticed back when I played Grey Zone Warfare, and I'm noticing it again now, is that the community is really talkative. It seems rare nowadays that you play a new online game and loads of people are in voice chat, loads of people are communicating with each other, and people are just having a laugh. You get to know people's names, you get to recognise people. But I've seen it so much in this game, and I think because like Grey Zone Warfare, you have to travel a long way. You often have long periods of time where you're sitting in a truck with somebody, or you're sitting in a helicopter with somebody, and you just talk to pass the time. It helps that the game kind of requires you to talk a little bit to communicate. If you want to be effective, you need to be able to ask people like, where do they need supplies? Where do people need backup? To call out enemy locations and stuff like that. It very much encourages you to use the voice chat and to use the radio system. There is a very simple ping system, and I'm sure there's lots of different mods, some of which will make it more fully fleshed out, but it doesn't let you put that much information into the pings by default. I don't ever use the pings, and I haven't seen anybody else use them so far. It seems like people talk instead. And then because that ice is broken a little bit, nearly everybody's got a mic, nearly everybody's speaking at least similar languages, or, you know, a lot of people on the NATO side will generally speak English, and I think a lot of people on the Russian side will speak Russian. And you can all sort of talk to each other a little bit, realise that everybody's got mics, and then that encourages you, when you're just hanging out in a Jeep or hanging out in the side of a helicopter, to just start chatting to people. And that's really, really nice. So when I'm thinking about what makes Arma Reforger amazing, what makes Arma Reforger exciting, it's not all of the kind of cool exploding helicopters, it's not how many realistic guns they have, it's not that destruction's coming soon and mortars and the ranking up system and all of that stuff. It's that it's a little bit boring. It's that it forces you to just slow down and actually communicate with people, work with people, and I'm under no illusions that if this game does actually blow up, if it does get huge and suddenly has 100,000 people playing, some of that might be lost. It's happened before. That happened with Grey Zone Warfare. One of the guys I was playing this with today, Azzy UK, he's an awesome streamer, check him out on Twitch. He was in the Grey Zone Warfare creator beta, and we were talking about how good that was. Well, there was only a few dozen people playing the game. Everybody had good mics, everybody was chatting all the time, and it was really, really fun. Then suddenly the floodgates opened. Loads of random people came in who didn't want to talk, weren't really interested in anything other than like getting the highest stats or getting through progression or something like that. And the game completely lost its soul at that point. And I could imagine that happening if Arma Reforger got too popular, that maybe some of this camaraderie would be lost. But right now, it's a really special place. And it's awesome for streamers. You know, whereas lots of people normally playing a game might not like the jank. Like, I haven't even talked about the insane server queues because there's not that many servers running right now, and how laggy it can get and how sort of broken it can be. Like, a lot of the time you'll just get disconnected from servers or the game will crash for no reason, although it does have an awesome thing that lets you kind of skip the queue and get back in, which is amazing, and I love that. Thank you so much for whoever put that in. But yeah, there are a lot of problems with it that would probably put a lot of normal people off. And the matches themselves go on for insane amounts of time, like multiple days sometimes. So this is a game you need to commit a lot of time to. But for streamers, that's awesome because there's a bit of a narrative across these really long games. You get to meet loads of people. You have loads of funny interactions with other real people. It's just an absolute blast. So I completely understand now why this has been blowing up for creators and for streamers. I think it's an awesome thing to create content on, and it's really, really fun to watch. As soon as I stopped playing today, like after I'd been playing for 8 hours, I immediately loaded up Azzy's stream and just started watching him because I was like, yeah, I want to watch someone else do this. Take some of the pressure off where I'm not getting shot at or anything, and I'm just going to watch it. If you want to check out my stream, the VOD is up on my YouTube channel. It's 8 hours long, but it was a really, really fun day, really good. I'm sure I'll be playing more over the next week, so if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. God, my voice is going after talking for so long today. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.